Hello everyone, it's RacerX Day. RacerX hat, RacerX shirt, RacerX lanyard, RacerX pen,
RacerX business cards, coasters, round-ish stickers, rectangle TWIG stickers,
and of course the TWIG from RacerX. Let's get into it.
Using the GNB all-in-one flight controller ESC board, Diatone Mamba 1105, 5500 kV motors, HQ 3x2 props, Runcam Nano 2, Ishin Nano VTX. Mine's FR Sky, so right down in here we have an FR Sky XM Plus. The kit does have motor protection, or arm protection depending upon how you see it. Also quick release for your batteries. Bottom plate looks like it's 2 millimeters thick. Motor post to motor post, I'm getting 110 millimeters. Mine weighs just over 68 grams. I flew it on the GNB 3S 520 milliamp battery, which brings the all-up weight just under 111 grams. You can also get 2S battery mounts. See, it says twist right there, and twig right there. As we get into this flight, I am going to show you two flights. This is a good flight. Don't let it scare you off. But I have a second flight that was really fun too. But I have this flight, which is kind of a clean flight, and then another one. And you should pay attention to the punch outs, because I alluded to these motors in the SAO video and in the 136 RS from iFlight. I think these are the motors that we need to spin when running these 3-inch 3x2 HQ props. They perform really nicely. They're good and efficient. I won't say they're the absolute most durable, because I know there's people out there that fly over concrete, and you that fly over the concrete, you're going to have to probably empty your wallet a little bit more to find a motor that can take that time and time again. But I haven't had any problems with these, so unless you fly in those really rough environments that I can't vouch for, I would suggest these motors. So you're going to see that it performs really well. I actually enjoyed myself quite a bit. I spent my first week kind of not flying very well. I think I wasn't sleeping all that well, and we had a lot going on at work, you know. Just life gets in the way. This is a hobby for me. This isn't what I do to pay my bills. It doesn't feed my kids or anything like that. It was very therapeutic, I will say, to be able to get out and fly this particular quad, because it is a really nicely assembled quad. Adam did an outstanding job. There's a lot of thought. A lot of the testing process went into this. There are team pilots for RacerX involved. And, you know, they're just not more than one iteration of this. This took a while to bring to market. And for those of you that follow along on Facebook, you probably already know its history. I would also add that Brian Graves, Mr. RacerX, he has an affinity for Speed Racer, I think it is. And we used to see a lot of his Whoop builds. Matter of fact, we probably still do from time to time. And that was kind of the inspiration, at least for the colorization of mine. And also, he spent a good portion of his life being an aerobatic pilot. So he does all sorts of things that would probably make me throw up, or at the very least nauseous. And he was actually a sponsored pilot by GoPro, so going on a lot of shoots. And he found in his email that he wrote to me that this helped keep him sharp on the sticks for the aerobatic piloting that he needed to do. And that's kind of how he uses and found FPV. He enjoys FPV, and he's got an electronics background. So many of us, it seems like, you know, we either have some sort of background that applies well to this sort of hobby, or we just learned it on our fly. But that's a little bit of background about this. Now, they have partners for this. I can't believe they're selling this frame for, what is it listing for here? The frame in its own is $21.99 from Heli Nation. And Heli Nation is one of the official partners. You'll also find this available from the AMAX shop for Europe, Do FPV, I believe, in Indonesia, and RotorGeeks in Canada. So those are all the different sources you can find it. Okay, this is the second flight we're going to watch. I can't say if this is the same day or a different day. I just can't remember anymore. But it gives you more flight footage to watch. And there's an accidental gap that I get here. And the first person to put the timeline down for the accidental gap with the correct timeline, just during the gap, let's say within 3 to 5 seconds, you will win some of the stickers that I showed previously, the RacerX and the TWIG stickers, and I'll also throw in one of my logo stickers as well, or two of them, whatever have you, and we'll take care of sending that off. It shouldn't be more than a couple dollars in an envelope. But also additional partners on this project, we have Chris Griffin from Phoenix 3D. That's a 3D printing company. Many of you will already know that name and their prints. Very high quality commercial prints. So not being printed at home or anything of that nature. Not that our home prints are terrible, but, you know, commercial grade equipment generally does a lot better. And lastly, Adam Douglas. Adam Douglas is the official builder. So if you're looking to build a machine like this and you don't want to take on the build yourself, I would highly encourage you to go to Adam's Facebook page and send him a message and ask him. The kit on Heli Nation for all the components, it runs fully assembled runs $159. So that should give you some idea of the cost that it's going to take to get a machine of this quality and this performance. And then you have to tack on Adam's build cost, which is very, very reasonable in my opinion. I would not do it for anywhere near what Adam builds for. And that's, I guess, kind of a sales pitch there, isn't it? Or maybe I value my own time too much. I think something that this flight also does is it shows you not just, it's not a dramatically different flight, but it shows you a little bit different stuff, and I kind of repeat that power loop over the house a little bit, but the flight time is also a little bit different, so that gives you a better idea how to gauge what sort of flight time you might have depending upon your build. You can go with lighter motors and a lighter setup, and it's going to work similarly, and you may find the flight time goes up. You know, you change a couple things out to change weight in these micros that are coming in that mid 60 gram, and you only have to change 1 or 2 grams, and all of a sudden you've got 10, 15, 20 seconds of extra flight. It's really interesting how that all works in weight. With micros, we have to manage that a lot more tightly than our 5-inch brothers do. But as you can see, I've been pushing this quad pretty hard, and when we get back to the desk, we'll take a look at a crash reel, but I'm going to start with one with sound, because I think the sound is important, because it gives you a kind of an audible alert to how hard it hit. It is on the swing set, so it is a little bit of a glancing blow. It's not a dead straight on blow, so the machine kind of, you get to see it tumble and wobble through the air. And that was actually early on. That was early on. That's back when I was having troubles with my flights. I was just not flying very well. But you see, we come in there at almost 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and I could have flown a little bit longer. The battery's resting voltage at 3.63. Before we talk about the build quality of this, let's go ahead and start with the crash that I mentioned. This is going to be a crash into the swing set, and it is a pretty firm crash.
Well, that was a hard knock.
And now that we've seen that, I'll go ahead and roll some crash footage over here somewhere, and we can talk about this quad a little bit over in this right-hand section. So we see we have a really nice print here, again, from Phoenix 3D. We've got a very color-coordinated color scheme that's been put together in the Speed Racer theme. Don't expect yours to come painted, though. If you want to do that, you can surely do it. I would sure reach out and find out what kind of paint this is, because look at this. I mean, I have beat this thing up pretty good, and the paint has really stayed on pretty well. Even on the nuts, or on the screws up here where it had paint on it as well, it's just really surprising how well that paint has stayed on there. I really enjoyed kind of how this was put together. Now, I'm a little bit of a fan of a somewhat elevated camera. I don't want it way up, because if I built with a stack, a vertical stack instead of a single board, I would be worried about the camera being too far up and then creating leverage when you make contact with something maybe directly here or here. I think the possibilities of that are relatively minimal, but that's always one of the things I'm looking out for when I'm doing reviews, is because that we all crash, and the last thing we want is to have a crash and have sadness, even though it seems reasonable that if we have a crash with any quad that we should expect some damage. But we've gotten to the point with this hobby where we expect there to be little to no damage depending upon how extreme our crash is. And Adam's build, you remember I mentioned him as the official builder. He does some things that he has to take in consideration, because he's building these things and then shipping them to someone else, and then they have to be able to use it. So one of the things I thought I should point out is this: that is the Eachine Nano VTX down here, and it has the button. It's still available right out here. It's secured nicely away underneath the canopy, kind of pinched under the canopy, and you can't quite see it because it takes a flashlight, but down in this hole right over here is the bind button for the FrSky XM Plus. So I was able to bind this up. I could use the button on the VTX if I wanted to. I didn't have to open anything up, and I think that's something that shows the level of expertise that Adam has when it comes to building. If you're not familiar with Adam Douglas, I'll put a link down to his YouTube channel. He's got builds for all of his customers. They're not build videos. They're kind of proof of concept, showing the video that the machine works in the various ways that it needs to work. And he talks a little bit about maybe some of the build choices he put together. He also has his own builds and I think he does some reviews for some quads as well. But he seems like he's building every day. He's just a busy guy. Something else that's in here where if you wanted to, you could drop a few grams. We've got a buzzer in here, so you could eliminate the buzzer and some wiring. If you really wanted to go for all-out performance and flight time, you could probably shorten the wires here down to where you really don't need that much sticking out. Optimally, you want 90 degrees somewhere sticking out for range purposes, but with an XM Plus, you could probably go about here. Maybe you could shave off another gram by reducing the zip tie and the heat shrink. You could probably, if you wanted to, not have the mesh, which looks awful dang good, but you know, if you didn't have the mesh on here, maybe we drop another half a gram or 3/4 of a gram, because that would also eliminate heat shrink that holds the ends. Where else might you be able to save a weight? You could always go with a rubber band. Well, no, a rubber band wouldn't work very well. You can see here you can use a battery strap, and I would be suspicious if a battery strap wouldn't completely just be the same weight as this, because it's not very heavy. So, but that is an option. If you would prefer to use a battery strap, it's right here. Of course, if you use a battery strap, you're not toilet tanking, you're going the traditional style. Also, you can see the mounting holes here, that those are for your 16 by 16 stacks on both sides. And then we have plenty of gap around our USB port. So if you have one of those dramatic crashes, that if any of the components shift, the USB port should be safe from actually bonking into the carbon fiber and becoming loose and unusable. You can also see from the bottom only 2 screws are used, and we have, well, I've got some dirt down here. Let me move that out of the way. And we've got a couple different mounting patterns for different sorts of motors, depending upon what you choose to use. So they've really got a lot of bases covered here. It's really hard to get much more detailed. All the detailed work's been done for me, really nothing to draw out. You've got a good look at the frame and the carbon fiber layout. I've shown you crashes, I've shown you flights, we weighed it up, we went through the specs. I think I've done everything I can think of doing, but one thing I will be doing that I want to alert you to, I have another frame kit right here, and we're going to be giving that away. Not in this video. I'm going to make a separate video because that helps to keep the giveaway part clean. We were technically going to have 2 giveaways. We're going to have one for the timestamp. If you saw the accidental gap and you put the time on the video, that's just kind of a fun thing. That's a sticker pack. I'll put together a sticker pack, but the theme will be the X-Racer and the TWIG. But the theme will be the TWIG, the X-Racer, and I'll put in a sticker or 2 or whatever of mine. I may put in some general stickers as well if someone indicates that they really like to stickerize stuff. I have a host of stickers. But you can see it's a complete kit. It comes with one of the battery straps. It comes with one twist lock. It is in white. You could paint this up if you choose to. And what else do we got in here? We got our nylon in here. We've got HQ props, it looks like, down in there, the black ones. And then we've got a battery pad in there. We got some nuts. So this is the $21.99 kit that you would typically buy from Heli Nation or AMAX or RotorGeeks or Do FPV. But I'll make a separate video in that giveaway. I'll record it right after I'm done with this video.
One thing I forgot to mention during the flight footage is that Mr. RacerX wanted to make sure that Andy RC got his credit for the TWIG name, tiny weight in grams, which seems to be pretty appropriate for something this powerful, but yet light. Also, if you have one, I know people have these out there, leave your experiences down below with the frame, with the prints, with different combination of components, what you like, what you didn't like, what you switched to, what things have you tried, what sort of success or failures maybe you've had, and to help other people who might come to the channel and then they want to learn from you. And if you're not a builder but you'd like to fly something like this, I'll have a link down below to all the different shops that this kit is available from, and Adam Douglas, he can hook you up with a build. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in that section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.